Hello, hello. How is everyone? Come on and join me. Let's see. Come on in. Let's take my glasses off. We are going to be talking Airbnb. Just putting on some light. And automating your Airbnb so you've got more time and make it more of a passive income strategy. So feel free to share this live with anyone who you think might be interested, who this could help. Hello, Lawrence Taylor, coming from Newport, Indiana. I should know my states. But yes, thank you all for joining. Let's see who's here. Lily James, Krista Michelle, Ray Turner. Where's everyone from? Drop that in the comments. Hey, Budget and Travel. Hello, Manny Dukes. So you're Ghanaian? Yes, Ghana in the house. Holla. Got my Africa chain on. Guys, should I sell this Africa chain? I bought it in Kumasi, like in 2019, Kumasi, Ghana. So I don't know. I'd have to find like a good supplier. Indianapolis. Yeah, my bad. Yes, Brooklyn, New York, Virginia, Kamisha. Hey, girl. Ghanaian living in Florida. Yes, I'm in Las Vegas, so we're everywhere. New Jersey, I saw that. Where's everyone from? All right, so are you all trying to, watching from South Africa? That's awesome. Mexico City, holla, we're international, y'all. So are you all trying to start an Airbnb? Hey, Kia, to start an Airbnb in your local area. I'm just curious if you are interested in doing a local Airbnb or if you already know that you want to host remotely. Drop that in the chat. I see Houston, Jess, Maine. Oh, that's cute. If I said it right. 7 Even Care. Oh, Kia, you're in DC. That's right. That's where I used to be. I was in DC for, I'm not going to age myself, since college in the DC area, Maryland, DC, Virginia. All right. So who is trying to host locally? I see I am Monica Lewis is trying to host in Orlando. DC so hard. Chat with me about that, Kia. New York, local in Vegas. Hey, Vegas, local, me too. New York, you want to start remotely, cool. Airbnb, my space when I'm not here. So that's awesome. Keep push and play. That is actually how I started with Airbnb. I would Airbnb my apartment. I lived in a really cute apartment. This is back in 2014, and I would Airbnb my apartment whenever I would travel. So I used to travel for work and for fun, just leisure travel. And I would just put my place on Airbnb, and I loved it because literally I would like go, let's say on a Friday, and my guests would check in that same Friday. By Saturday, I had a payment because Airbnb pays you the day after the guest checks in. So it's lovely. So for all of you that are trying to host remotely, what has been like your biggest actually for everyone, what's been your biggest challenge in getting started? For those of you who want to host remotely, why do you want to host remotely? And then from those of you that want to host locally, why? Oh, Amina, thank you for letting me know that you got the wrong IG account was tagged. Shoot. My bad. Hopefully people find me. I'll fix that for next time. Atlanta, you want to do both. Could I offer advice? Absolutely. That's what I'm going to do on this chat. So I would love to find how to start without buying. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So, starting The most important thing you want to do, which it sounds like some of you maybe have, is to really figure out whether you want to host locally or remotely, because that's going to determine so much of your process, right? Like, how are you going to find these places, and deciding based on your regulations. So you want to make sure you're making data-driven decisions, because some areas have really strict short-term rental regulations, and there are still ways to work within that depending on what type of short-term rental you want to have. Do you want to have a you want to host more of the traditional Airbnb where people are just coming for like a couple of days at a time, or are you willing to host midterm stays where people are staying for like a month at a time, 3 months at a time? One of my favorite midterm stays type of guests is, all you may know, I love travel nurses, but you can also book staycationers, as well as people who are in transition and they're looking for a place to stay while they figure out where do they actually want to live in this city before going out and getting a whole 12-month lease or buying a whole new home, right? So there are different ways to kind of figure that out. And go ahead and share this with anyone you know who might be interested in starting an Airbnb, and we're gonna dive right in. So there are like 3 main ways that you can get started with Airbnb without buying property, right? So like the traditional way, or the way that most people think, is that you have to go out and actually purchase a property, which is a great way to get started. I'm not saying that it's not. That is actually my next goal, is just buying property specifically for Airbnb. It's just that, the traditional way of buying property, you have to put a big down payment down there, because unless it's your primary residence, right, it's going to be anywhere from 10 to 20% down payment required by the lender. You have to come to the closing table with closing costs. Like, people always forget about that when they're buying a property. Like, you don't just show up to the closing table and sign and walk away. Like, there are expenses to actually closing on this property. And then depending on what type of property you're buying, you might have repair costs, right? You might need to do some things to get this property into good enough shape to be able to host it on Airbnb. Remember, because like these are fully furnished properties, when people are looking for Airbnbs, they're looking for something nice, right? They're looking for good quality property. So it can't be falling apart, or maybe something you would be okay with taking your time to renovate while you still live there. It's not the same sort of thing. So you have to keep those costs in mind. So the alternative is to then either use a space that you already have, like I was talking about with the person earlier, how I started with my own apartment, right? So I started with my own apartment and would do it when I was traveling. And then I was laid off at the time. I was working a contract attorney job, so I'm also an attorney. None of this is legal advice, y'all. And at the time, they laid me off. They were like, "Deuces, sis, we don't need you right now." And I was like, "Oh, word, I got this apartment based off of my attorney income. I don't have that right now." So I was like, all right, I have to figure something out. So I decided to Airbnb a space in my apartment full time. And it was like such a game changer, right? Because that is what put me on this path to doing Airbnb, because it started to make enough to like cover my rent. And then there were months where I was making more than my rent. And I was like, this is nice, So slowly but surely I built that up. And then the next space I went on to do, so I rented a property from a landlord, and with their permission, like I put it all in the lease. And I was able to actually use it specifically for Airbnb. Let me check some of these. Oh, that is not the right pen. Let's see. Checking some of these questions. I would like to start without buying property. Oh, that's awesome. You're only 18. Man, if I had started some of these side hustles when I was 18, I would be super balling. So that's great. I think it's a great way to start. So, let me see. If you do your own apartment, would that be a subletting issue? So, you definitely still want to get permission from your landlord to be able to do it. I'll be honest, at the time, it was so new. No one was doing it, and I was just kind of like going with the flow. But when I left that apartment, I actually transitioned it to an Airbnb, and I did get permission, in writing from the landlord to be able to do that. The next way that I did this was co-hosting. So my first co-hosting was, so how do you do this if you don't have an apartment, right? So wherever you live, if you have additional space, let me backtrack. So in terms of using what you already have, if you have additional space wherever you live, like that could be a way, because people always laugh at this when I say like you can rent on Airbnb. You could do an apartment, a house, a trailer, a couch. And people always laugh at that. But the founders of Airbnb, that is how they started this whole huge business. They were living in San Francisco. San Francisco is mad expensive. They could not make their rent. So there was an event happening one weekend. They decided to rent out couches and air mattresses in their apartment to people attending this event in San Francisco. And they threw up like a little website, which is now Airbnb. And that's how they got going. So like, you know, you have to be comfortable with it. I teach you in my course. I do have a course, the BNB from Scratch method. I teach you in the course how to make sure you're safe if you're doing like anything in your own home, but you have to think outside the box. So like if you've got a basement or a couch, like I said, an extra room, which is what I did, that is a great way to get started. And I show you how to take the necessary precautions, because if you're hosting in your house, especially now, COVID is still around, making sure you take those necessary precautions. All right, so let me not get all over the place. The next thing or next way of doing it is going out and actually leasing property, right? Which I talked about. So going out and leasing property, and with the landlord's permission in writing, you can use it for Airbnb. So I did this. I found landlords that were, that I negotiated with. They were willing, because, for a landlord, especially a private landlord, and even the bigger apartment complexes, like their whole goal is to be able to have someone paying that money so they can cover their mortgage and their expenses. And so you can go and talk to them, and, especially a private landlord, and they're like, you're a live person with money and, they're willing to work with you. So, in the course, I teach you exactly what to say to them. I give you my scripts and all that. And the course is 75% off right now, or you can start for $0 up front. So if you use PayPal Pay Later, you don't have any payments and no interest for 6 months. So I like to offer that so that, you can get started, build your Airbnb, start making money before you even have to pay for this program. So I'm just putting that out there. Let me check these comments. Hey. Care, live, love, hello. All right. Oh, thank you, Frank. Airbnb saved businesses booming in Florida. Yeah, it's booming kind of everywhere because, all right, cool. So it's booming in a lot of locations, both major cities as well as more rural or suburban locations. A big driver for that actually has been, the pandemic. People are itching to kind of travel, but we can't, some places you can't internationally travel to. There are restrictions coming and going. Last year, I don't know the exact number, there was like a major increase in the number of road trips, right? I had a cousin who road tripped. They came from New York, landed in Vegas. It was like the first weekend I moved out here. And then he and a bunch of friends went from they rented a car in Vegas and then drove back to New York across the country and stopped in so many places. And all those places they stopped, they were staying at hotels or Airbnbs. And so the demand is there. It's shifted from what you may have seen 2-3 years ago, but people are still traveling. People are still in need of Airbnbs. Remote workers, if you got 11 kids at home and you're working from home, they're like, I cannot work here, right? And so they use Airbnb sometimes for a week at a time during the day, whatever the case may be. So there are so many alternatives to starting and so many types of guests that you can really attract with the right sort of Airbnb and the right sort of listing, right? So, cool. Let me not get so sidetracked. All right, let me read. Hey, Colette. Colette's my girl. Who is responsible when there are damages or theft? So that's a really good question. Depends on a lot of factors, but if it's the guest, then it's the guest. And Airbnb has a great $1 million host, like, it's not a policy, it's not insurance, but host guarantee. So you can make claims with Airbnb. You have to really do a good job of documenting everything. So I show you in the course, like, how to have your cleaners document things, how to have like your inventory so you know what's in your property, because like they can't just give money out all willy-nilly just because you say something is broken, right? You have to show proof. And then you also want to make sure you have short-term rental insurance because you're doing short-term rentals, right? It's not necessarily a traditional rental lease that's usually 12 months and you get regular renters insurance. Although your landlord may require you still get regular renters insurance, you want to make sure you're like triple covered, right? So yeah, that makes a huge difference. Okay. My thing is, how can you not believe in a platform that you are already using? I'm not sure what you mean there. How do people Airbnb hotels? So same sort of thing. You get permission. Like there are some people, like, so for instance in Vegas, it's such a resort heavy, hotel heavy city, right? There are some people who like get timeshares with these properties, and so they even use their timeshares for Airbnb, right? Depending on, now I can't speak to that because I don't have a timeshare, but depending on what their like the terms of their timeshare are, you can use that as well. So like you're not there all the time, right? And maybe you bought this timeshare in one of these really nice resorts here in Las Vegas or hotels here in Las Vegas. It's yours, so you have the right, depending on what is in the contract, to use it however you see fit. And so people might do that as well. Like there's so many ways that you can get into this Airbnb space. And I always say Airbnb because that's what people are most familiar with, but it's really short-term rentals, right? Because you can be on other platforms. You can be on Airbnb, VRBO, which is vacation rental by owner. You can be on booking.com, Expedia. Like there are so many platforms that you can be on. Of course, I always suggest like start with one, master it, and know your property and all the like quirks and things about your property and questions that people are always going to ask before you add another platform, because every single platform is different and operates different. There's a reason why people start with Airbnb, and because they have made it, to me, the most user friendly. But stepping out and adding like a platform like VRBO, you're gonna open yourself up to so many more other travelers, like a lot of older travelers who have been doing this for a while. They're used to vacation rental by owner, right? It's been around a lot longer. It merged with HomeAway. And so a lot of these older or even international travelers, they've been using that platform for like 15, 20 years or however long it's been around, versus Airbnb that has only been around this last decade. So adding another platform is huge. And I show you in the course as well how to, like, what platforms to use and how to actually get that going. All right. Okay. The tenant has to have their own food and cleaning supplies. So that, a lot of this is all just dependent on what you want to offer, right? So there are some Airbnbs that offer breakfast. I tend not to for various reasons, but there are some, depending on where you are, like that might be something that you want to do, especially if like maybe you've got more of a bed and breakfast style Airbnb. Cleaning supplies, like my cleaners clean, you might want to leave some basic things so that if they make a spill or whatever, they can take care of it on their own. But you want to make sure you have really quality cleaners, and you want to make sure you automate the cleaning process as well so that there are no slip-ups because cleaning is so important, right? Like, how many of you have gone to a hotel or maybe even an Airbnb and you get there and it's not clean and you're like, it just, even if they come and clean it, like, it just throws off the entire, vibe of the trip. So that's really, really important. Hi from LA. Do you recommend larger apartment complexes or smaller? Complex landlords having a hard time leasing. I mean, so I show you how to do both in the course, but I love small private landlords. I just really do. Like, I like both because there are some pros to larger apartment complexes, right? Like, the amenities are always bomb. Like the one that I started in, I had a rooftop pool. Like, a private landlord is not going to have that. Whenever I needed had a maintenance issue, for the Airbnb, it was so easy. The turnaround time was like less than 24 hours. So there are huge benefits to apartment complexes. And depending on where you live, like how nice they are, it's great to get. However, for a lot of people, if you're new to this or you don't have an LLC already or business credit or established, all that good stuff, private landlords can be a great way to get started because they're just a little more flexible. Like, they don't have to talk to so-and-so at management and blah, blah, blah. Like, I like private landlords, especially for beginners, but you don't have to start with them. Like, I know so many of my students who literally just start with larger apartment complexes, but I say don't ignore the private landlords. So, all right. I have a call shortly. How much money do you need to get started? Do you recommend? Okay, so I'm going to answer that question in just a second. Okay. All right, so before I answer your question about how much money to get started, I want to talk about the third way. I kind of briefly touched on it. The third way to do this without buying a property, which is co-hosting. So for those of you who may not know, co-hosting is when you actually host someone else's property for them on Airbnb for a percentage of the booking. So your fee, how you make your money, is every booking that comes in, whatever percentage you and that owner agree on, that is your fee. So let's say it's like anywhere, generally you see anywhere from 15 to 20% in terms of 15, 20, sometimes 30 if it's a larger property or you're doing a little bit more. It's really whatever you agree upon with the owner. I mean, I had one where it was 50-50. So you are hosting this property for the owner. You are the co-host. You handle the guest messaging. You handle everything it is about being a host. The only difference is this is not your property. It's also not your rental, right? So I like this strategy a lot because there's really little to no capital and little to no funds to get started, right? You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to lease. So there's no rent. There's no all the expenses associated with rent. You don't have to go out and get furniture because it's the owner's property. So they would be the ones furnishing it. I always say I really love interior design. I've actually done interior design for a couple companies before. So sometimes I will charge the person to set it up all for them. Like, I'll, help them design it, help them get the furniture, blah, 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 and I'll charge them a fee. So there's a lot less capital to get started. This is also a really great way to scale. So like, if you say, you want to make this like your main business, right? So I've hosted over 20 Airbnbs, and at one point that is like I had a mix of rentals and a mix of co-hosts, and I transitioned a lot of it to my current Airbnb manager, and that is like her actual business now. Like, she just basically co-hosts but on a grander scale. So like, this is a great way to get started. It's a great way to scale. I've seen really huge professional Airbnb hosts go from the leasing method to almost all co-hosting because it's less expensive. The only thing is you have to weigh the pros and cons and your personality style, because with leasing, aside from your landlord, like, you run the show. It's all you do you make the decisions on everything. With co-hosting, you're working with / for this owner, so they have a lot of say in what you can and can't do. So I just wanted to talk about that before I talked about how much money you need to get started. So we already talked about, like, with buying, the expenses associated, right? Your down payment, your closing costs, and any repair costs, things like that. And then you need to furnish the property, whether you use new or used furniture. With leasing, the costs associated are going to be the costs generally for leasing a property. So I can't say exact numbers because it depends on, how are you renting a studio or are you renting a 5-bedroom house, right? Are you renting in, San Francisco, or are you renting in, somewhere in more suburban or rural Georgia? So that's all going to depend, but it's basically going to be your first month's rent, your deposit, anything that landlord is requiring, and then you have to make sure you're furnishing the place as well. So you have to take that into account. With co-hosting, it's pretty much zero. I wouldn't say totally zero because, like, if you want to automate, like I teach you how to automate in the course. And when I say automate, I mean automating things like 70 to 90% of your guest messages, because you're going to learn that guests ask the same question about your property over and over again. You want to automate, like, how you check in your guests and how you check them out, right? So you automate a lot of that stuff. So as a co-host, if you want to have more automation in your business, you may then start paying for, like, some of these tools and things, but that's all, your decision and how you want to run your business. I show you what tools I use and what tools you can use, and then you make that decision. Cool. So hopefully that answered your question. All right. What differentiates my course or your course from other Airbnb courses? Me, I can't say, like, what other, I have taken some other Airbnb courses years ago. I think that I bring myself, and, like, if you like my teaching style, I always say go with, I probably shouldn't say this, but go with the person that you vibe the best with, because it's all very similar information, but you want to make sure that you are taking that information in well. You like that person's teaching style, how they break things down. So I like to break things down a lot. Like, I like to lay it out, like, not to say like I'm talking to a 10-year-old, but I want to make sure that I'm laying it out that if you learn better by video, I have the video. If you learn better by being able to read it, I still have it written out for you. I have checklists and templates, right? So how about I give an overview of the course? So it's 6 major modules and then 2 bonuses. So module 1 is going to be all about learning Airbnb. So it's all about, like, breaking down what Airbnb is, how the platform works, just kind of giving you that general overview, and then also figuring out your local regulations and deciding whether or not you're going to host locally or remotely, right? In module 2, it's the lavish method. So learn, assemble is module 2. So that's where we're going to actually assemble your team, your cleaners, kind of have all that set up before you get going, so that, like, once you get your property, you can be up and running. So this is going to include my checklist, tools and templates that I use, how to find your cleaners, how to do all of that. I also touched very briefly on, like, if you're looking to do this more as a business, like how to set up your business LLC and all that good stuff. And then in the next module is village search. So this is like the module that I know a lot of people are, like, interested in, to the point where in the beginning of the course, I'm like, okay, you should go through it in order, but if you really just want to skip to the meat of it, go to village search. So village search is where you learn basically how to find your property, right? Whether you're using your own space, leasing, or co-hosting. So I walk you through all of that. I include my scripts, so, like, what to actually say to landlords as well as owners, depending on whether you want to master lease or co-host. And then I also include like emails and things, like how to actually reach out to these owners and all the steps associated with it, what to do once you get the property. And then I also include my leasing clause, so that you can make sure you have that permission baked into your lease so that you don't have any trouble later on, because the worst thing you can experience, especially when you're master leasing, is you do all this work, you set it all up, and then you didn't have it in writing. Maybe you had like a little agreement with whoever the property manager was at the time, and then 6 months in, they change managers and they're like, skirt, just kidding, you can't do this anymore. And you have another 6 months left on your lease. So I show you all of that, and I include that in that section. The next step is interior design, right? So like, how many of you have been on Airbnb or just any like real estate site and you're perusing and the pictures or the design of a place look like stranger danger, right? Like you just don't want to stay there. So I show you how not to be that person. So in the interior design section, I'm showing you exactly how to design your property so that it's going to attract well-paying guests, right? So that it's going to look good on this platform, because you got to remember, you're on the same page as all these other listings. You want to make sure yours looks good. And so I have my DIY interior design guide, which if you're like me and you like design, I show you like how to do it yourself, like how to set this all up, how to figure it out. But then I have my Get It Done For You interior design guide. And this is for people who are like, I'm not really interested in doing interior design. So I show you how to actually get your interior design done for you, so that that is a step that you can easily, check off and just move on. Okay, next in the course is setup. So setup is literally all about setting up your property as well as your listing. So one, you want to set up your property in a matter of days instead of weeks, right? I've seen people take like a month to 2 months to put together their property. And the thing is, in the Airbnb world, in short-term rentals, days equal money. So every day that you're not up and running, you're missing out on money, because every day is a nightly rate, right? If just for example, if your nightly rate is $100 a night, you're just missing out, every day on $100. Like, so I show you how to set your property up in a matter of days, like instead of weeks at a time. And then I also show you how to set up your listing in a way that's going to have you ranked really well and high on Airbnb's page, so that when people come to the site and they're looking for something specifically in your location and in the number of bedrooms, about your property is going to pop up and also look good. So I show you how to set up the listing. I have my listing template, I have my setup checklist and all that good stuff, as well as like the goods and things that you should get. My furniture list, like my basic goods, because people forget things like basic things like dish soap, like, you have to have those things. And it can be a lot, because you got to remember, like, think of when you are moving into a new house, right? Or a new apartment or whatever. Like, think of all the things that you have to buy to make your home fully operational, right? Like simple things, and like, not only dish soap, hand soap, like these little things that you have to remember. And so you don't want to have a guest be like, hey, where are the sponges? Like, I would like to wash the dishes. Simple things like that. So I have a full list on all of that. What's next? So after setup, it's going to be all about honing your skills. So in this section, it's going to be like the fun part where you really start to automate your process and automate your business. So like I was saying earlier, you want to automate like 70 to 90% of your guest messages, automate that process of how you check your guests in and check them out, automate how you, like someone was asking, like, how do you handle, damages and claims and things like that. So this section is all about that, like what tools you can implement as well. And then I also have some bonuses, like not just Airbnb, so how to use other platforms and incorporate all of that. And then I have another bonus, the bookkeeping like a boss section, which is basically showing you how to keep track of your money that comes in with Airbnb, because my goal is for you to get bookings on a consistent basis, and Airbnb literally just deposits money into your account back to back, like, and so you need to track all of that, and, make sure your books are good. So I show you how to do that. Also, the IRS is real, so you need to make sure you've got all that squared away. And then, what am I missing? We do have a private community group, which I'm growing and improving. So that's part of the course as well. So that is everything included off the top of my head. I'm always including extra things in the course. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see. What site do I use to find private landlords? I include that in the course. Interested in cohosting? Yeah, it's a really dope way to do this business. What will I need to start? LLC, EIN, DUNS. Yeah, all those things. And I show you how to do that in the course as well. Is all the legal specific strategy? Is all the legal specific to state, city in the course? So of course I can't, I don't know, I can't do every single state and city and county in the United States. But I show you how. Let me answer this properly. I show you how to find your regulations, how to just determine, what they say, and determine whether or not you can or want to do short-term rentals in that location. So I show that to you in the Learn section. I need the course. Get it. It's 75% off. It usually sells for over $2,000. It's 75% off right now. I also have the payment plan option, so you can do 4 payments. And then I have the PayPal Pay Later option as well. So you can start for $0 up front for 6 months, no interest and no payments required. So yes, you can get in there. I'm ready and waiting. I'm excited. Lavish acronym. Yes, that is my little acronym for Learn, Assemble, Village Search, Interior Design, Setup, and Hone. Okay. Are there any Airbnb friendly apartments in Atlanta? I couldn't answer that question because I'm not in Atlanta, but I show you how to find them in the course. So I don't know specific properties in Atlanta, but I will say, actually, I don't know the properties, but one of my students got 2 listings in the Atlanta area. So, and they were at apartment complexes. I don't know which ones, but yeah, I know a lot of hosts in Atlanta. So I think I definitely know there are there. You're welcome. We need to talk then soon. Sure, you can always book a call with me. The link is in my bio for that as well. So if you want more one-on-one help, you can book. And do the research and all that good stuff. Oh, you guys can't hear me? Shoot. Well, I have to jump anyway, so, oh no. I have to go anyway, so thank you guys. Thank you. I know you can't hear me, but thank you all. Price is... Don't know what happened to the sound. Oh, you can hear me now. Okay, so gotta go because I have a call right now. But the price is $597 at 75% off, or you can do 4 payments of $180, or you can do the PayPal Pay Later, no payments for 6 months and no interest. So Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. You can click the link in my bio, and it's the first button to get the course. So I'm glad you guys can hear me. Thank you all so much. And I'll do my best to save this live as well. All right. Bye, guys. See you all later.